Yesterday afternoon, in federal court in Houston, Texas, Cesar Humberto Lopez Larios, also known as Grenas de Stoners and Oso de Stoners, a high-ranking leader of La Mara Salvatrucha, also known as MS-13, was ordered to be transferred in custody to the Eastern District of New York, where he, together with 13 other high-ranking MS-13 leaders, are charged with directing the transnational criminal organization's criminal activities in the United States, El Salvador, Mexico, and elsewhere over the past 2 decades. Lopez Larios, who had been a fugitive for more than 3 years, was arrested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, on June 9, 2024, when he arrived at George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston, Texas. Specifically, Lopez Larios is charged with conspiracy to provide and conceal material support to terrorists, conspiracy to commit acts of terrorism transcending national boundaries, conspiracy to finance terrorism, and narco-terrorism conspiracy. Lopez Larios will be arraigned in the Eastern District of New York at a later date. The defendant was a member of MS-13's original 12 Apostles of the Devil and RANFLA national leadership structure in El Salvador, Mexico, and the United States. Breon Peace, United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, ED&I, Christy Hawkins, Acting Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office, and Ivan J. Arvello, Special Agent in charge, HSI's New York Field Office, announced Lopez Larios' arrest.
The arrest of Lopez Larios, who is one of the most senior leaders of MS-13 in the world, is a significant achievement for law enforcement and another crucial step in the dismantling of this international criminal enterprise.
The defendant will soon face a reckoning in a federal courtroom on Long Island where, acting on his orders, Mississippi 13 has spilled so much blood and turned communities into war zones. Now that Mr. Lopez Larios is behind bars, he's no longer in his alleged position of power directing a reign of terror, nor enriching MS-13 and their cartel associates. The FBI will continue to collaborate with our partners to seek justice and to find the remaining fugitives of this vicious transnational criminal enterprise.
Cesar Humberto Lopez Larios' arrest represents yet another significant leader of MS-13 to be brought to justice this year. Despite his attempts to evade authorities, Lopez Larios must now answer to criminal charges stemming from his alleged management of one of the most malicious transnational criminal organizations in existence today. Although Lopez Larios, also known as Grenas de Stoners to his followers, is now in custody, we recognize there is more to be done. HSI New York, working with our law enforcement partners, will not cease in our efforts to hold MS-13 accountable for their unmitigated violence in communities across New York and elsewhere.
As set forth in the indictment and related court filings, Lopez Larios and his co-defendants are part of MS-13's command and control structure, consisting of the RANFLA Nacional, RANFLA en Las Calles, and RANFLA en Los Penales. They play significant leadership roles in the organization's operations in El Salvador, Mexico, the United States, and throughout the world. In total, 27 of the highest-ranking leaders of MS-13 have been charged in the Eastern District of New York in this indictment and the related indictment of United States v. Arevalo Chavez et al. As further alleged, in approximately 2002, Lopez Larios, his co-defendants and other MS-13 leaders began establishing a highly organized hierarchical command and control structure as a means to effectuate their decisions and enforce their orders, even while in prison. They directed acts of violence and murder in El Salvador, the United States and elsewhere, established military-style training camps for MS-13 members, and obtained military weapons such as rifles, handguns, grenades, improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and rocket launchers. Further, beginning in approximately 2012, Lopez Larios and other members of the RANFLA National negotiated with officials from the government of El Salvador, GOES, to obtain benefits and concessions from the government. In order to extort those benefits and concessions, Mississippi 13 engaged in public displays of violence to threaten and intimidate civilian populations, target GOES law enforcement and military officials, and manipulate the electoral process in El Salvador. Additionally, as alleged, the RANFLA National directed the expansion of MS-13 activities around the world, including the United States and Mexico, where Lopez Larios and other high-ranking leaders were sent to organize operations, make connections to obtain narcotics and firearms from Mexican drug cartels, such as the Zetas, Gulf Cartel, Cartel de Jalisco, Nueva Generación, CJN, and Sinaloa Cartel, and engage in human trafficking and smuggling. The Ranfla Nacional also directed MS-13's large membership in the United States to engage in criminal activities, such as drug trafficking and extortion, to raise money to support MS-13's terrorist activities in El Salvador and elsewhere. Lopez Larios, who has been an MS-13 leader for approximately 2 decades in El Salvador, Mexico, and the United States, was an original member of MS-13's 12 Apostles of the Devil, and later became a member of the Ranfla Nacional. Finally, the Ranfla Nacional and MS-13's transnational leadership structure is alleged to have directed members in the United States to commit acts of violence to further its goals and implement rules enabling MS-13 to entrench itself in parts of the United States, including within the Eastern District of New York, where, under the defendant's leadership and rules, Mississippi, 13 has committed murders, attempted murders, assaults, kidnappings, drug trafficking, extortion of individuals and businesses, and obstruction of justice, and has sent dues and the proceeds of criminal activity by wire transfer to MS-13 leaders in El Salvador. For example, this office's Long Island Criminal Division has prosecuted hundreds of MS-13 leaders, members and associates for carrying out more than 70 murders in the Eastern District of New York between 2009 and the present. This case was brought by Joint Task Force Vulcan, JTFV, which is an initiative launched in August 2019 by the United States Department of Justice, aimed at disrupting, dismantling, and ultimately destroying the transnational criminal organization Mississippi, 13, led by Assistant United States Attorney John J. Durham Jr. of the Eastern District of New York, and comprised of U.S. attorneys' offices across the country. This includes the District of New Jersey, the Northern District of Ohio, the District of Utah, the District of Massachusetts, the Eastern District of Texas, the Southern District of New York, the Southern District of Florida, the Eastern District of Virginia, the Southern District of California, the District of Nevada, the District of Alaska, and the District of Columbia, as well as the Department of Justice's National Security Division and the Criminal Division. Additionally, the FBI, HSI, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the USMS, the U.S. Bureau of Prisons, and the United States Agency for International Development, Office of Inspector General have been essential law enforcement partners and spearheaded JTFV's investigations.